Thank you everyone for joining in for the panel discussion. Moving forward together with the team of the KASHISH 2020 virtual, really happy to have an illustrious panel, very diverse and very eminent. Welcome Suresh Ramdas, who is the moderator for this panel. Suresh Ramdas works as an LGBTQ advocate for inclusion in the corporate space. As an out gay man, he's also the winner of Mr. Gay India 2019. Yay! With 14 plus years of total experience in customer support and in the space of diversity and inclusion, he's also the co-founder of Working with Pride group. He's also featured as 2019's Outstanding 50 LGBT plus future leader. Wow, that's a accomplished person totally. Thank you, Suresh, for agreeing to moderate the panel.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Sridhar. Super excited to be a part of this. Let me go ahead and just talk to you all about our esteemed panelists here. First and foremost, let's go with Aditya Advani, a gay dad and a landscape architect by profession. Aditya's mother, Kanta Advani, became a crusader for the gay cause, appearing on national TV programs such as We the People. In 1991, Aditya met his partner, Michael Tar, on Jan 30th, 1993. They had a private Hindu ceremony officiated by Swami Bodhananda, attended by their friends and relatives. In 2011, the couple decided to have children and bring them up in India. Their kids were born through surrogacy in 2012. Great, Aditya, welcome.
Thank you.
And next, we have Akkai Padmashali, a sexual minorities and social activist and founder of Ondede. Ondede's mission is to create a space for dialogue and support and strengthen action to visibilize issues of dignity, voice, sexuality in relation to children, women, and sexual minorities. Welcome, Akkai. And next, we have Menaka Guruswamy. Dr. Menaka Guruswamy is a senior advocate at the Supreme Court of India. She was educated at Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar, Harvard Law School Gammon Fellow, and at the National Law School of India. She was the B.R. Ambedkar Research Scholar and Lecturer in law at Columbia Law School from 2017 to 2019, where she taught constitutional design in post-conflict democracies. Her litigation practices include successfully defending federal legislation that mandates that all private schools admit disadvantaged children, which is Right to Education Act, successfully litigated against private vigilant groups, and overturned Section 377, the colonial era law that criminalizes consensual same-sex relations, along with Navtej Johar versus Union of India. Her criminal law defense practice also includes cases like Augusta Westland and 2G Spectrum. Welcome, Menaka. Thank you so much for being a part of this. How was it before and how do you think it's after Section 377?
I think it means different things to different people. I think I want to focus on the journey ahead. In as much as, this has been a journey of 20 odd years to get to this point, I think the journey ahead includes including litigation work against discrimination, because we need discrimination protection. I think it includes challenging and contesting the Transgender Act, which is really deeply problematic, and many parts of it are unconstitutional and at odds with the law that the Supreme Court has already laid down. So it's a deeply problematic statute. And I think it also includes, the nitty-gritties of day-to-day life, healthcare benefits and protection, being able to get medical insurance if you are HIV positive, right, which is a real challenge. It includes an equal access to medical health care if you are an LGBT Indian. How do transgender people experience state healthcare facilities? So I think that going forward, we have so much work to do, right? We have to realize that you just can't take your foot off the pedal. If anything, you need to accelerate now. You have a judgment by a constitution bench that carves out the rights to equality, non-discrimination, expression, and dignity and life and liberty. So you need to use that constitutional foundation to now push for individual sets of rights that we all need to live as full citizens in this country. So I think the path, the journey to full citizenship is underway, but in
Mhm.
no ways is our work done.
So next, Aditya, how was the journey for you?
Well, I just think it's really important that gay people get quote unquote normalized into society. You know, I feel that's not the right word, but for the lack of a better word, I
Mhm.
don't feel we're abnormal in any way. But we do need to have the same lives because we're not really different from straight people at all. We are entitled to the right to have a family. And I would just say that, you know, I had a very successful life in the US where I lived for many years, for about 25 years. And I met my partner many years ago, almost 30 years ago now. But
Mhm.
you know, as I grew successful, all my friends had children, and I felt I had everything but one thing. We both wanted children. I love children, and I feel my life was incomplete. And that I speak for myself, not for everyone.
Mhm.
Doesn't have to have a child, but there was a large period of my life in my 40s where I was very sad because
Mhm.
I felt incomplete. I felt there was a hollowness inside. What I always looked towards was having some, you know, children to play with and enjoy being with and growing my family. And we should be allowed to have families. We decided we would raise the children in India, partly to be with my parents, with my mother, and also to have them grow up as Indians.
Yeah.
Because we went to meet my friend's mother, who's a doctor, one of my childhood aunties. She's
Mhm.
a family doctor. And I said, Auntie, we're going to be parents. And she said, um, that's wonderful. I said, don't you think we're too old? She said, no, you're not. You'll
Mm.
shine a wonderful example on gay society in India. So we want to grow them in India, raise the kids in India. I felt she gave me support and encouragement, and I have to thank her. And I think it's really important for us somehow to gain the right to have families. Surrogacy
Mm.
did allow us, it had its problematic pieces, but it could have been legislated correctly. It was
Okay.
incorrectly legislated and outlawed for no reason at all. And they
Mhm.
didn't focus on, kind of improving the surrogates' experience, but just outlawed the entire experience for single people, single women, gay people, very unfairly, and removed our ability to have children. And adoption is not easy for gay people. We
Yeah.
should be allowed to adopt. We should be allowed to grow our own families. Certainly, I know about 7, 8, maybe more, 10 couples who have children, and I've known them 20, 30 years, these people. In Tricone, which is also one of the very
Oh,
important organizations
yeah, yeah.
in our culture, in our history of Indian gay culture, and I was part of that for many years in the Bay Area. And then we all have become parents gradually, and I would love that same thing to happen in India. There's nothing wrong
Mhm.
with us being parents. I think it's very fulfilling to have children. You can have them through adoption or through, surrogacy, but it's a need that we have, and we should not be denied it. The people who want to have children should be allowed to have children.
I'm hopeful. So I'm going to go to Akkai now as a trans representative, trans person representing the community. Now, what do you really see, the trans community going forward?
I think the journey in Section 377, it was not so easy. I
Mm-hmm.
think the long struggle of almost 30 years, the entire movement has begun from Bangalore.
Mm-hmm.
I think always the Section 377 means it's vulnerable communities. That's the transgender women who are in streets, who are in the profession of sex work and begging. It was not so easy. I think without understanding the politics of Section 377, the police violence, the assault, the abuse, the atrocities against the people who are definitely marginalized or vulnerable because of their gender identity and sexual orientation. When I dream for future that could be very non-discriminatory or very social inclusive, everyone is like accepting the way you are. We need to acknowledge my friends who have been, you know, uh, passed away, or people who have been killed because of the phobic attitude or mindset. There is a class discrimination within the transgender or sexual minority community movement. There is a caste discrimination within the community. How do we address that first? I think many friends, like being part of the social movement, I think, working with women's movement or child rights movement or youth movement or class or caste minorities movement, I always see that there is some amount of dominance, there is some amount of patriarchy, there is some amount of power. How do you decentralize this? How do you fight against the politics of patriarchy? And coming from a working class, non-English speaking background, I think my organization, like one day we are trying to converge movements to speak about the politics of sexuality and gender the transgender verdict of the Nalsa Supreme Court 2014 has given us some amount of boost. I think the judiciary is in favor of the community, talking about the entire struggle, challenges, barriers, battle, everything. But how do you transform the constitution morality into the public morality? The big question for us. I think today's conversation will definitely lead up to an extent to see what exactly that we can do as a movement together. And I'm not a representative. I speak as a Akkai Padmashali. I speak as a transgender woman. I can't speak for the whole movement.
Great. Thank you so much, Akkai. Again, coming back to you, Menaka, you've said that there is lots more to go. Yes, marriage equality or the trans bill. How do we really, bring those conversations or choose which one should we fight for?
I don't think it's, our choice. These are, members of the LGBTQ community who are coming with their stories of discrimination. To put it mildly, right? When you are deprived of basic dignity. As a lawyer, I'm not making these choices. These are members of the LGBTQ community who are coming and saying, I'm a gay man, I'm HIV positive, I can't buy medical insurance because this is an excluded category. Obviously, that is an important case to do, right? Because it is about dignity and health and life and liberty. I have litigated tribal rights cases and education cases and extrajudicial killings. And the basic thing that I have learned is that you listen, people will come with their stories. They will come to you as a lawyer saying, this is my life and this is how it's been broken apart. They set the agenda. There is no priority in my mind. The quest for greater equality for LGBTQ people has come when we have litigated, fought for, advocated, stepped on the streets for multifarious rights. When, as a community, do you stop the agenda being set for you by the state? And when do you, in fact, take charge and start setting the agenda? The average LGBTQ person, from what I've seen, is the average citizen living in a small part of Chhattisgarh. So when I go to argue bails in Bilaspur, queer people come to meet me and they are doing an assortment of things. They are farmers, they are students, they are traders, they are just indigenous people living on their land, trying to keep a mining company from taking it. They will want their stories to be told. We have a huge debt to caste movements constitutionally. We would not be able to litigate Nalsa, Johar, Nas, none of it, without the work that was done by caste movements at the founding of India and as the Indian Constitution was drafted, adopted, and interpreted over the years. This language that Akkai used of constitutional morality, it comes from Ambedkar, it comes from caste. That judges are asked to set aside popular and social morality, which is caste-based, which upholds the caste system, and are expected to implement constitutional morality, which says that the practice of caste is deeply unconstitutional because dignity is equal. We really need to understand as LGBTQ people, how do we build these alliances? If we are not able to build alliances across caste, across the women's movement, across tribal rights movements, across education movements, and across to religious minorities who are gravely persecuted in India today, then we do not have platforms to engage the state. And I think it is incredibly important. The journey will include multiple rights, and it may include marriage, but this is a long quest. We have deep challenges in the healthcare sector because we are in the time of COVID. And LGBTQ people, like other vulnerable people, let's not forget that other vulnerable people are deeply, disparately impacted. I think that's a very, very important part of this. You need employment protection because not everyone works in a supportive corporate space. I have litigated law as a queer person in a man's profession, which is dominated by upper caste men. I know what it's like to be a queer person or woman in that setting. And it is not fun. It is important to be able to extend constitutional protections to those who are in the unorganized sector, not just those who are in the organized sector. I think we've got many, many things to do. We each have skill sets that we can offer. There is no hierarchy in this quest for rights. We have to be able to work together, to talk to each other, and to disagree. Our movements have been dominated by men for too long. And that has to
True.
change. But there are other minorities in this country that are being hunted. So let us get out of this box, right, which we are in, which is, marriage as the goal. Please, right now, the goal is to expand this platform, which is called the Indian Constitution, not
Right.
just for LGBTQ people, but for all vulnerable minorities in this country.
We also have Saadhya Pawar as one of our panelists as well. So he's graduated in sociology from SNDT University, Mumbai, and went on to be a panelist in multiple forums, including the 100 Diversity Leader Program at the World HRD Congress, and as a human book at the Anam Prem Trans and Hijra Empowerment Fair. He works now full-time to run a Transman group called Indian Transman World, where they help fellow trans men with consultation with parents, surgery-related help or information, document-related help or process, and group funding for needy trans men. So thank you so much for joining in, Saadhya. As a out trans man, how has life been for you?
I can only say कि एक ऐसी जर्नी है जहाँ से आप out is not perfect word I say कि क्योंकि मैं out आपके लिए हूँ, मैं अपने आप से ऑलरेडी जुड़ा हुआ था, तो लोगों के लिए नया है, ये मेरे लिए नया नहीं था कभी भी। तो स्पेसिफिकली मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि हम जब आउट कहते हैं तो यार माँ के पेट से एक ही बार आउट होते हैं सब लोग, तो जस्ट लाइक दैट कि मैं एक ही बार बाहर आया हूँ जैसे आप आए हो, बट दुनिया ने मुझे ऐसे एक्सेप्ट किया कि नहीं मैं बहुत नया हूँ, या फिर मैं कहीं लाइक मैं वियर्ड हूँ, या फिर मैं किसी के वॉर्म से आया ही नहीं। तो ये जो डिफरेंशिएट करना है वो दुनिया का है, मेरा तो कुछ नहीं है, मैं एज यूजुअल एज नॉर्मल ह्यूमन बीइंग ही हूँ। लोगों ने ट्रांस नाम दे दिया है, बट मुझे नहीं पता था, मुझे अपनी आइडेंटिटी एज अ मेल ही पता थी। मतलब मुझे अपनी बॉडी से प्रॉब्लम थी तो वो मैंने फिक्स इट, आई जस्ट हैड डन माय जैसे रिपेयरिंग करते हैं किसी भी चीज़ की, तो मैंने बस रिपेयर कर दिया कि मुझे ये अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, मुझे बस अपनी बॉडी में फिक्स होना था। तो एट द एज ऑफ 2 मैं मतलब लाइक आई लॉस्ट माय पेरेंट्स, ये ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स के साथ बड़ा होना, तो उन्हें एक्सप्लेन करना, तो लाइक उन्हें सिर्फ हिजड़ा वर्ड पता है मेल फीमेल के पास, तो उन्हें नहीं पता कि इसके इन बिटवीन हमारी इतनी सारी लाइक इतना बड़ा स्पेक्ट्रम है। तो मैंने उन्हें बस एक ही एक्सप्लेनेशन दी थी अपने दादाजी को कि क्या आप एक मेल के साथ वन नाइट स्टैंड कर सकते हैं क्या, आपके विश के साथ आप एंजॉय कर सकते हैं क्या। ही सेड क्या वियर्ड है, मतलब वो उन्होंने रिएक्ट किया और मुझे ऑफ कोर्स मैं पीटा हूँ, मतलब बीत चुका हूँ। तो मैंने कहा जो लग रहा है आपको, जो फील हुआ अभी वो सेम मुझे फील होगा अगर आप कहोगे कि यू कैन एटलीस्ट ट्राई, तो मैं आज आपको कहता हूँ कि यू कैन एटलीस्ट ट्राई। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल उन्होंने मेरी आइडेंटिटी एक्सेप्ट की थी कि मुझे लड़कियां पसंद है, बट ये बाय ग्रो अप चेंज हो जाएगा माइंड, बट इट वाज नॉट दैट इजी। मेल फीमेल एक एज पे आते हैं, उसके बाद रिलेशनशिप स्टार्ट होते हैं। मैं जो फील कर रहा था वो सब कुछ अलग था, मैंने एवरी स्टेज पे एक्सप्लेन करना चाहा बट नहीं हुआ। मतलब एट द एंड मुझे यही बोलना पड़ा कि आप एक बार ट्राई कर लीजिए अगर ये इतना इजी है तो। मैंने फर्स्ट कॉल किया था नाज फाउंडेशन में, जो दिल्ली में संगिनी का हेल्पलाइन नंबर था, वो न्यूज़पेपर में आया था किसी ऐड के साथ, तो मैं वहाँ पे गया था, मैंने कंसल्टेशन लिया और वहाँ से मुझे कुछ और लिंक मिलते गए मेरे जैसे लोगों के। तो उसके ही थ्रू मुझे 2 साल के बाद एक पर्सन मिला जो ट्रांस पर्सन था, क्या क्या सर्जरीज होती है डिटेलिंग्स में जानना, इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट करना। और उसके बाद मैंने 2017 में सर्जरी की है। जब तक आपको एक फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट नहीं मिलता आप कुछ नहीं कर पाओगे। सेम लाइक इंडिया में तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता, लाइक सर्जरीज इंडिया में फ्री नहीं थी, गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल का तब तक कुछ पता नहीं था। रिसर्च स्टार्ट हुआ कि पैसे नहीं है तो कैसे अरेंज होगा, एंड देन गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल में विजिट करना, इंफॉर्मेशन लेते रहना। लोग कुछ अलग ही नजरिए से देखने लग गए थे। मतलब मैंने अपनी हेयर कटिंग करवा ली थी कम्प्लीटली, और मैं जैसे रहना चाहता था वैसे ही आउट हो गया पूरी तरह से। मतलब लाइक अपनी फैमिली के सामने कि मुझे ऐसे ही रहना है, अब मैं उस बॉक्स में नहीं रहूंगा जो एक फीमेल का है, क्योंकि वो मेरे लिए बना नहीं है। देन ही दे सेड कि तुम हमारे साथ नहीं रह सकते, हमारी जो फैमिली के नाम है उनके साथ सब कुछ कट करना पड़ेगा। तो घर के बाहर निकलना, 2 महीने तक बाहर रहना, फिर फैमिली को रियलाइज हुआ नहीं अपना ही बच्चा है, कहाँ जाएगा। तो उन्होंने वापस से मुझे कांटेक्ट किया, क्योंकि ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स थे, उनके लिए भी मैं एक सपोर्ट सिस्टम था, मैं ही अर्निंग पर्सन था। तो 2 महीने बाद मैं वापस आया एंड अगेन स्टार्ट हुआ कि मैं तो ऐसे ही रहूंगा, आपको एडजस्ट होना पड़ेगा। मेरी ग्रैनी ने मुझे क्लियरली बोल दिया कि आपको अगर सर्जरी करवानी है, आगे का कोई भी स्टेप लेना है, देन आपके पास अपना घर होना चाहिए। she was
Wow,
very
okay.
clear about me. She was very clear. She was so understanding कि वो इतनी supporting मतलब support system बन गई कि वो हमेशा मुझे boost करती थी. रहना है ना लड़की के साथ, लड़की ऐसी ढूंढो कि तुम्हें लाइफ टाइम साथ है. मेरे अब तक की लाइफ में सिर्फ 2 ही अफेयर हुए और सेकंड अफेयर में मेरी शादी हो गई. ठीक है, तो क्लियर मतलब मुझे वो सब नहीं करना था. कि अपनी अंदर ही इतना स्टिग्मा था. मतलब मैं लोगों को समझाऊं कैसे और क्या समझाना है. लाइक कोई मेल आके आपको समझाता है क्या मैं मेल हूँ यार, मुझे समझो.
करेक्ट.
इन माय केस मुझे हमेशा समझाना पड़ता था कि प्रोनाउंसिएशन ठीक करो, बात ठीक से करो, रिस्पेक्ट मी. मतलब हर चीज के लिए मुझे बोलना ही, आई हैव टू बी वोकल. तो ये प्रॉब्लम फेस करते करते फिर दुनिया को लाइटली लेना स्टार्ट हुआ और अपने ऊपर फोकस करना स्टार्ट हुआ कि नाउ इट्स टाइम टू गेट अप, स्टैंड फॉर योरसेल्फ. कि तुम्हें अर्निंग करनी पड़ेगी, सेविंग करनी पड़ेगी. एंड घर इज अ वेरी बिग कॉन्सेप्ट. मतलब ऑब्वियसली घर लेना सिंपल की बात नहीं थी. तो फीमेल कोटा में मैंने जॉब लिया एज अ कस्टम ऑफिसर. मैं एज अ जॉब कर रहा था और उसके बाद वो ड्रॉप डाउन हुआ क्योंकि वहां पे मैंने आइडेंटिटी जब ओपन की अपनी.
ओके.
तो दे फेल्ट वेरी बैड. मतलब ऐसे नहीं हो सकता क्योंकि वहां पे सारे जो लोग हैं वो 40+ है. मतलब एक्सेप्टिंग दूर की बात है, मुझे समझ ही नहीं ले रहे थे. तुम अब तक ऐसे गेटअप में कभी तुरंत चेंज कर दिया. तो बहुत सारा ड्रामा हुआ. उसके बाद मैंने डिसाइड किया कि अगर मुझे लाइफ अपनी एज अ मेल ही जीनी है तो फिर मुझे शायद ये इससे दूर जाना पड़ेगा, थोड़ा गैप लेना पड़ेगा कि जो फीमेल आइडेंटिटीज है उससे थोड़ा आई नीड दैट स्पेस. क्योंकि कभी कभी क्या होता है, अगर एक्सेप्टेंस भी मिल जाती है ना तो फिर भी लोगों के अंदर वो ही भरा होता है. वो कभी ना कभी आपको बोल ही देते हैं. वो चेहरे पे एक्सेप्टेंस दिखाना और फिर बाद में अरे वो आई थी वो गई थी, वही चालू होता है. मैंने डिसाइड किया कि मैं जॉब नहीं करूंगा, रिजाइन दे दूंगा और वही किया. देन आफ्टर जो भी पैसे आए थे या फिर जो भी मेरी दादी ने मेरे लिए ज्वेलरी रखी थी शादी के लिए, वो सब कुछ उठा के मैंने अपनी घर के लिए डाल दिए कि यार इन्वेस्टमेंट कर दो, अपना घर ले लो. क्योंकि उनको भी सोशल स्टिग्मा से गुजरना पड़ रहा था. वो एवरीडे मैं जैसे ही ऑफिस निकलता था, बाजू वाले नेबर्स आके उनको कुछ ना कुछ बोलते थे. लाइक आप क्यों करा रहे हो, ये कोई अच्छी बात है क्या, तो वो हमारे में रह नहीं सकता. तो मतलब सिंपल बात है, आप ना ही मुझे खिलाने वाले हो ना ही मेरी सर्जरी कराने वाले हो. तो व्हाटएवर मुझे जो भी करना है वो मुझे करना है. तो आप सपोर्ट करो या ना करो. आप अगर आपका बच्चा हैंडीकैप है तो ऑब्वियसली आप दुनिया का नहीं सोचोगे, आप तो कराओगे ना. तो ये स्टैंड लेना इंपॉर्टेंट है. वो स्टैंड नहीं ले पा रहे. इंडियन मेंटालिटी में वो चीजें याद नहीं. अगर मेल फीमेल का बॉक्स निकल गया तो बस रखा है हिजड़ा करके. तो मैं तो अपने घर में किसी हिजड़े को पैदा होना और इन्फॉर्म करना ये तो नहीं करूंगा. यार तुम कह रहे हो, इट्स नॉट अ बैड. मतलब कोई अगर बन भी रहा है भी हिजड़ा तो तुम उसे रिस्पेक्ट दो ना. वो भी तो सेम, मतलब उसके भी 2 हाथ है 2 पैर है. मतलब कोई एलियन तो नहीं है. या फिर वो बात करने में मतलब कमजोर इंसान को भी आप सपोर्ट करते हो और हमें तो कोई सपोर्ट ही नहीं है. तो उस माइनॉरिटीज को कितनी ज्यादा की जरूरत है, फैमिली की जरूरत है, अर्निंग की जरूरत है उनके लिए. मतलब आज इतनी बड़ी इतना बड़ा जैसे कोविड का जो ब्रेकडाउन हुआ है, आप सोचिए ना, उनके लिए आज कोई नहीं सोच रहा है, कोई भी नहीं. वो खुदा के अपनी जो अर्निंग थी वो स्पेंड कर रहे लोगों के ऊपर. बट हम उनके बारे में बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. आज मुझे नहीं पता कितनी सारी कंपनियों ने उनको पैसे दिए. मुझे कोई किसी ने नहीं बोला कि यार किसी ने भी उनको फंडिंग दी होगी. मैं तो यही न्यूज़पेपर में सुन रहा हूँ कि उन्होंने लोगों को रिटर्न किया है जो भी आपसे लिया. इसका मतलब है कि आपको समझना कि वो सिर्फ पैसे के लिए हिजड़ा नहीं बनते यार. उनकी आइडेंटिटीज है, उन्हें रिस्पेक्ट दो. सिंपल है.
Good. Thank you so much, Saadhya, for sharing this. I think it is very important for us to really know, yes, there is this whole spectrum of LGBTQ people. As a bisexual person, there has to be visibility. I think even as trans men, yes, there are people from the trans men community as well. Now, Akkai, from the transgender community, with the trans bill, which is very regressive, right from the time when it was being implemented in 2019. Now, what is it that people need to know, and what is changing in that aspect?
The whole country is agitating, and few sections or few wings are justifying the Transgender Protection Act, and there is so much of political discussions with the current ruling government. And I think as an activist,
I think it's so difficult for me to digest. I think the nitty-gritties or the legitimacy of the act itself, which criminalizes, which discriminates, which is a sexist sort of, inclusion of certain amount of points, which is totally not in that way of my compromisation. I think our agitation still fights. I think many friends across the country who have been challenged before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has now instructed the government of India to respond in the next 6 weeks. And we have also filed as an organization before the High Court of Karnataka. And we are definitely looking what will be happening. And my advocate is Jaina Kotari, who's taking care of this thing. Though the act has now been a sort of, slight change in begging and sex work, I think, but in practice, that will not be supporting the movement. I think the majority are dependent on sex work and begging. I think the whole movement is totally debating and discussing. I think whatever sector, be it from the government or from the corporate or from the civil society or from any other section that is coming, it can't be a sort of wiping your tears. I think it's a long sustainability about employment and identity crisis that we are going through. I think in the meanwhile, there is so much other issue that is also coming now, especially in the corona pandemic, how the communities have been directly affected because of this lockdown, because we are the direct survivors of daily wages from sex work and begging. I think some way the state even did not think thrice or 4 times to what should be done for sex workers and transgender people, and especially people who are in street, have street vendors, or be it Pawar karmikas for the street, sweepers, or whoever. I think we are the most affected of it. But some way the executive and the political leaders are really not showing so much interest to implement this. So now we are not in a position to come in street and shout slogans against the state. Many of my people are not able to join the webinars or conference calls, or whatever. But somewhere we are making one-to-one phone calls, talking to people. Many people within this community also doesn't know how to operate iPhone, or doesn't know how to touch screen phones, how to use it, how to use WhatsApp. So that is the state that we are living.
We just like to take the closing comments from everyone here. So Aditya, in maybe 3-4 sentences, I would say everybody think of 3-4 sentences. As India, where do we really want to see ourselves for the community go forward?
In India, marriage is an overarching umbrella to our society, and that we will gain the respect of society. If marriage is allowed, it will normalize our situation. And there's no reason why, with 377 gone, that marriage should be denied to us. And it's very important to be able to choose the person of your choice and have a loving relationship with them in your life. So I really feel that we should go for gay marriage. Invisibility is a big issue. So Indian gay people need to come out. People need to say they're gay, and that will change how people perceive people.
Look, as queer people, we are children of this constitution, right? It is this constitution that gives us also our imagination, for the space to have our dreams, where society has often not accepted those dreams. So I want to say this, that I think you're at this moment where you can, keep marching on this path. And I have no doubt that we will get discrimination protections. I hope sincerely that the Transgender Act is taken apart. I hope as children of this constitution, we will have adoption rights, and we will have partnership protections, and we will have marriage for those who want it. Because in the ultimate quest, right, for full citizenship, that full citizenship includes the ability to either choose to exercise rights or not to exercise rights. That is, in fact, the greatest choice of them all. That my dreams may be different from your dreams, but that both our dreams have constitutional sanctity. So mine may include children and yours may not, but both those dreams are equally valid. And there is a dignity that is accorded to each of our dreams. For those who will come after us, will have the ability to dream freely, right? With a society that appreciates those dreams. That is the quest. The quest is not just our present. It is the future. And that is the constitution that we want to leave behind for those that will come.
Great, very inspiring, Menaka. Thank you so much for saying that. And Saadhya, as a trans man, what is it that you really want to see from India?
यही अपील करूंगा कि ऑफ कोर्स मुझे भी सेम राइट्स मिले जो इंडियन सिटीजनशिप को मिलते हैं. That's it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think with that, I would like to say yes. I think a voice is that everybody has the opportunity to kind of speak out, bring their voice out, but let's go together. I think with Kashish's theme this year, which is again moving forward together. So I think as a community, we need to go forward. We need to go ahead and bring out our issues and speak out, and also try and help and support as many people as possible during this whole process. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. And back to you, Tanvi and Sridhar.
Yeah, thanks a lot for each of you joining in and bringing the diverse voices of different generations, different sexualities, different identities. Really happy that we could make this panel happen, and that I'm sure is a way forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, team. Have a nice, thank you so much, Tanvi, for putting this together. And Sridhar,